I've been telling you that it's still a worry maybe today, and just like yesterday, not as big a worry. I'm talking about the coronavirus. Cases jumping over 6,000 right now. That does presently surpass SARS cases reported back in 2002, 2003. Over 200 U.S. evacuees passing health screenings in Alaska, arriving in California as American Airlines suspends Shanghai, Beijing flights from Los Angeles. In other words, cutting back on the continued travel that had been curbed over the last few days by a bunch of major airlines as well. To family physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, on what this means right now. Doctor, good to have you. How do you describe where things stand now?
Yeah, so one of the last things you mentioned was if we're near a treatment. Maybe I'll start with that.
Sure.
We don't have a vaccine for coronavirus, this particular strain of the coronavirus, but the CDC and other organizations have been very clear in saying that we're working very fast to get a vaccine, and things are literally, moment by moment, we're working towards that. In terms of treatment, we know that right now the treatment for this coronavirus, this novel strain, and many of them, is supportive, right? So you have to make sure that you're treating your symptoms. You have to make sure the person's comfortable, they can breathe okay, et cetera, et cetera. There is no specific medication to, say, treat or cure this right now. But once again, that's something that I imagine is on the horizon, hopefully.
All right, so I had a couple of dissidents on this show, Chinese dissidents.
Okay.
One woman who had been at Tiananmen Square. Okay. She has been talking to friends and colleagues in China and elsewhere who tell her the situation is a lot worse than the Chinese are presenting. And
interesting.
One person, a prominent person, there are a couple of others have said that. Do you think the Chinese are doing enough?
Okay, so that's interesting. You mentioned a couple points here. Could this situation be worse than what it seems? That's always possible, right? That is always possible. Do I think the Chinese are doing enough? Let's speak about that specifically. I actually literally, just before sitting down with you, just finished listening to a press conference that the World Health Organization held. The CDC and the World Health Organization pretty much every day within the last few days have been holding daily press conferences with literally up-to-the-minute information about what they're doing. And that's involving the Chinese government and what Chinese officials and scientists are doing, as well as other nationalities. Remember, this is not just a China or American thing. This is a global issue. Australians are involved, Europeans, et cetera, et cetera. For me, the bigger issue is what are we all collectively doing? And what I feel good about as a family physician is that every day, and literally our phones are probably our best tools, there are live stream press conferences where we're hearing from the scientists on the ground about exactly what they're doing.
Well, in this latest one, Dr. What are they?
Yes.
It's a crisis in China. Are they saying it's a global crisis?
Well, yes, actually, yes, they are. And actually, he goes by the handle Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization, literally just finished listening to this press conference. They're reconvening.
That would be upping the anxiety level from yesterday, wouldn't it?
So let me finish the statement. They're reconvening the International Health Regulations Emergency Committee. The point being is that we're recognizing, as we have been, that this is a problem and that this is still steamrolling. What we're doing is we're upping the ante, and this is appropriate. So back to your initial question. What I'm happy with is what we seem to be doing as Americans and as a world global sort of entity. We are all working together, it seems, to fight this. And
all right, so when I hear, and you were sternly corrected during the break, but when I hear that the Chinese are refusing some American help, is that true?
I don't know. And that's why, and during the break, I'll be very honest with you, for our listeners, you were saying, well, the things that you told me, and I said, well, give me a footnote, give me a source, I'm going to need a citation for this.
Well, I go on covering their economy over the last few decades where they lie about a lot of stuff. Now, a lot of people do. I tell people I'm 175 pounds. They say, okay. But here's why I'm saying it, Doctor, that if they have a record of, let's say, being fast and loose with the facts on trade agreements, on what's going on back home, who's to say they can't be misrepresenting this?
So let me be very clear, and I want to make sure that my position is I stay, as we call it, in my lane. I am a physician. I'm a physician who consumes information just like everyone else. And my sources are the CDC, the WHO, and the public information that we have. Neil, is it possible that things are happening that I don't know about and that we don't know about? Certainly. But the information that I and we're getting as a nation that's public, that's given, tells us and is telling us right now that these entities and organizations are working together. That I like to hear, and that I hope is really happening.
All right, now in SARS, how long was it before they came up with a vaccine?
So
Like you mentioned, in this case, it could be a while, right? Here.
Well, yeah. So the thing about vaccines is they don't happen overnight.
Right.
And so that's why they've started working on it. I mean, the hope is that we have a vaccine in time to be able to impact the sort of the I don't want to call it epidemic, but sort of the cases that are happening now.
Right.
It's very possible, and sometimes what happens in other instances is that you develop the vaccine, but it's far after the sort of rise in cases and the sort of widespread illness has happened. It's sort of over by then. So what we hope is that we get a vaccine in time, but we recognize vaccines take a long time. We don't know when that's going to happen.
And this can incubate in the human system for up to 14 days. So
right? You know, some of the reports are saying 2 to 14 days of an incubation system, but the CDC, at least as of the yesterday's press conference, was saying that, you know, in terms of whether we can transmit the illness while we're asymptomatic, that is a question that our government officials, WHO and CDC, are still doing research on, even though Chinese officials have apparently said that that was the case.
In the case of a man in Germany who never went to China,
he never went to China.
It from a colleague,
person
right?
to person. So
right.
you're talking about person-to-person transmission. Yes.
Is that the same as get an airborne virus, or is it?
Well, we think that this virus is transmitted sort of airborne by respiratory stuff and droplets, but person-to-person means that from another person who had it, as opposed to having, you know, been in that area. Yeah.
You know your stuff, Doctor. Thank you
I'm
very,
glad
very
that you
much.
think so. We'll continue to debate and argue.
Yeah, I know. She was ruthless during the break. All right, Doctor, thank you. Seriously, very, very much. Good read on that.